Test, test, test. Thanks a lot. Sound okay? Sounds a little hot. Okay, thank you.
So good. Yay, yada, die, yada, die, die, die. Yay, yada, die, die, die. Yay, yada, die, yada, die, die, die. Yay, die, 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 die. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. ידה די, יאי דה די, ידה די די די. יאי ידה די, יאי די. יאי ידה די, ידה די די די. די 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 די.
How good it is to be with all of you tonight, to be with all of you here in the sanctuary together, to gather as community, to be with all of you online. We feel the love that you're all sending from your homes across the Philadelphia region and beyond. To ensure that we are praying together as one holy community tonight, let's take a moment to make sure that we're in relationship with one another. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, or if you're here in the sanctuary, to introduce yourself to one another. I love that we are all creating such wonderful community tonight. But we do have a service to do as well. We are honored this evening to have Zach Mizell and Corey Schreiber to lead us in our Shabbat blessings, beginning first with candle lighting on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
And our Shabbat Kiddush can be found on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Zach and Corey. Do you all remember that line from the Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. Well, you may not know this, but actually they got that line from this week's Torah portion. Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. And let them make me a sanctuary, this is God speaking, that I may dwell among them. If you build it, God will come. This week's portion is all about sacred space. The building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is described in detail in our parsha. The word Mishkan actually comes from the Hebrew root shachen, to dwell, to gather. And that's exactly what our sacred spaces are for, gathering together as we create community. The word synagogue comes from the same thing, comes from the Greek to mean to gather. And in Hebrew, we call this a Beit Knesset, a house of gathering. That's what we're doing. We are gathering, coming together as a community, whether in person or online. We gather each Shabbat to create community. And when we do that, I truly believe God is present among us. If you build it, God will come. We continue with the singing of our Kabbalat Shabbat songs to create more of that community, to bring God's presence into this space, beginning on page 12 with Lechune Ranana, and so that we can better sing out, please rise.
Lechune Ranana, yai lai 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 lai. Sing unto God, maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechune ranena, lai 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 wonder, in all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, lai 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 lai, l'Adonai, lai 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 lai, Nariah. Sur Yishenu, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai.
In the Talmud, the rabbis ask a question. They say, at a crossroads, if a funeral procession and a wedding procession meet, who has the right of way? Who goes first? And surprisingly, they answer the wedding processional. In Judaism, we do not delay joy. And as we continue with Lecha Dodi, welcoming that Sabbath bride, even amidst everything, we continue with joy, with the joy of a wedding. Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה ומחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Page 28, we continue with our call to worship.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
In the top of page 31, we read together, "Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim." Page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu l'madta. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu l'madta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvekumenu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach v'divrei toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu l'madta. As we lie down and as we rise up, this joy will last forever. As we lie down and as we rise up, this joy will last forever, forever. Ahavat olam, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
The top of page 39. Together, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק, חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים אדוני.
Page 42. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. 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 ושמור את צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We continue with the tefillah on pages 46 and following. Please rise.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Adonai sefatai tiftach Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chaste Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer, Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol, atah rav lehoshia, mashiv haruach umorid hagashem. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofe cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umito melach, melech memit, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Continue on the top of page 61 with our prayer for peace. Together, grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. We take moments now for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
In a moment, we will be on page 253 for the Misha Beirach, our prayer for healing. But first, a little good news. I think we need that. Parents of children under 5 all breathed a collective sigh of relief this week as we heard news of a vaccine for this age group finally on the horizon. Did I just jinx that? Yeah. Poo, 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 poo. Oh, you were yaying. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you were yaying it. Perfect. So much of our lives have been dictated by disease and illness for almost 2 years. And every glimmer of hope, every new treatment, or the wonderful decrease in case counts and hospitalizations that we've seen over the past couple weeks, every one of these gives us a bit of that light at the end of the tunnel. As we know, we will not get rid of COVID. But God willing, it will soon become endemic and eventually perhaps no worse than the flu. And so it is with illness for so many of us in our lives, in the lives of our family and our friends. that it's chronic and we can't always cure it all, but we get those moments of respite, those moments of hope, of light that allow us to keep on going. If you are holding someone in your heart tonight in need of healing, both physical or spiritual, I invite you to write their names in the chat or to speak their names aloud at this point.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה הוא יברך וירפא את החולים מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה הוא יברך וירפא את החולים אל נא רפא לה אל נא רפא לה אל נא רפא לה אל נא רפא לה מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה הוא יברך וירפא את החולים.
This week's Torah portion, Truma, includes a focus on gifts. In this case, the gifts that the Israelites are compelled to bring to their sacred space. So perhaps in this moment of prayer, we might focus on our gifts, the gifts that we bring, the gifts that we receive, all that makes us grateful. As we contemplate the last day, the last week, whatever might be going on in our lives, large or small, we give thanks to God as we continue with our Shehechianu blessing on page 344.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh
Shabbat Shalom. I recently, finally, made it for the first time to watch my kids' school basketball team play. The good news is I got to see the varsity team win. The bad news is my kid is on JV. Wrong game. Still haven't made it to see him play. But it was great to get to watch any kids play any game because, I'm such a basketball fan. Touchdown. Home run. How easy it is for me when I make a mistake to feel frustration. Whether the stakes are high or low, I tend to get stuck in my mistake, in the gap between the way things were planned and the way things turned out. So stuck that I am at risk of missing the experience I am granted, no matter how imperfect it might be. Yet, the gap between expectation and reality encompasses much of our lives because we are imperfect. We are human. So, if we don't want to relinquish those frequent, imperfect moments, those mistakes, to frustration, if we don't want to miss the potential in much of our lives, how might we respond? In a new trailer to a Julia Childs documentary, a clip of her television cooking show reveals her flipping the contents of her skillet right onto the top of her stove. And in her special Julia Childs voice, which I cannot imitate, she says, "Well, that didn't go very well." When it comes to imperfection, what a lesson in acceptance and humor. That letting go released her from getting so caught up in the mistake that she might have been less present in the next moment. An embrace of imperfection can open the door to presence. In last week's Torah portion, Mishpatim, describing revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai, God says to Moses, "Go up to the mountain and be there." It's redundant. If Moses goes up to the mountain, of course, that's where he'll be. Or maybe it's not redundant. For it is possible to be someplace and yet to not truly be present. So Torah teaches us, don't miss it. Don't miss your profound moment. Don't miss your life. Be there. The intention, ritual, and mindfulness in Judaism is abundant with paths towards presence. Last night, a congregant who was a master at intentional living died after a brief illness. Gail Meister, known by her Hebrew name Malka, was a beloved congregant and leader who deeply understood how to go up the mountain and be there. The intention she brought to comments in Torah study, the design of her days of learning meetings, personal spiritual practice, and greeting at the door of this sanctuary. All of you who are sometimes late know well she would warmly hand you a prayer book she had already opened to the right page so you could find your way. The loving intention she brought to life will be a part of her sacred legacy. And there are many ways our tradition teaches us to go up the mountain and be there. This week's Torah portion, Truma, offers one such path towards presence, the embrace of imperfection, even mistakes. Truma describes plans for the building of the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary meant to provide sacred space during the Israelites' journey through the desert. The specifications for the design are intricate, and the symbolism of each detail invites generations of interpretation. The sages of the Talmud, in their commentary, refer to two different mishkans, two different portable sanctuaries. But there is only one mishkan. So why the reference to two? When the sages refer to the first mishkan, they are speaking of the design plans. The second mishkan, the actual implementation of those plans. Design versus construction, expectation versus reality. In building sacred space, in building sacred lives, there is a gap. It's possible that tradition makes the point about the gap because some of us need to hear it. Or maybe we all do. In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown teaches, based on my data, I don't think that some people are perfectionists and some are not. I think perfectionism exists along a continuum. We all have some perfectionist tendencies. Other traditions and thinkers perceive our human struggles and offer their take on a similar theme. Picture kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the area of breakage with gold or silver, treating the repair as part of the history of an object rather than something to disguise. Consider the wisdom of 12-step recovery. In the 1930s, Alcoholics Anonymous separated from another group, partially due to philosophy. AA rejected the Oxford group's 4 absolutes: absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, and absolute love. It wasn't the virtues that were in question, but AA opposed the concept of the absolute and instead just embraced the traits themselves: honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. Absolutes sounded too close to perfection, even to divinity. Jewish wisdom shares wholeheartedly the reluctance around absolutes, the caution against perfectionism, the concern of any confusion around what is human and what is God. Designs for the Mishkan sanctuary reveal this reluctance around absolutes. This week's text teaches, "Make for me an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Each measurement includes a 1/2 cubit. Couldn't they just have rounded up for a complete unit of measurement? 13th century Rabbi Jacob ben Asher, known as the Baal HaTurim, teaches, when it comes to the dimensions of the ark, notice the measures are broken measures. He calls our attention to ensure our eyes do not just glaze over the many detailed construction materials and specifications. So together, let's notice. The measurements are partial. When we read it, something may feel undone. No matter what we are doing, even when we are building the most sacred, we remember we are not perfect. We are human. Only God is God. We bring that human imperfection. We honor that human imperfection in the most holy, the most beautiful, the most important works of our lives. The comfort is that we are not alone. We have each other to turn to bring our holy, imperfect gifts to this community together. And so, imperfection is our spiritual inheritance from Parshat Truma, our gift to teach us we are human, we are imperfect, we are together, and that is enough. Shabbat Shalom. We continue in our prayer books on pages 282 and 287 with Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. These words from Chana Senesh. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people we've loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Our congregation mourns the loss of Gail Malka Meister, who will be buried this Sunday. And this week, our congregation observes yahrzeit for Robert D. Abrahams, Sidney A. Allo, Sandra Kimmelman Altman, Max Aaron, William V. Baker, Robert Bamberry, Irving Bankowski, Lena Schwartzman Bass, Jacob Bauer, Julius C. Balinson, Hortense L. Becker, Pauline Jacobs Bendiner, Rose Berenstein, Lucille Berger, Benjamin Berkowitz, Jean R. Blank, Joseph A. Bloom, Willard R. Bonwit, Betty S. Broad, Israel Broad, Richard Burr, David Chadrow, Emily Turley, Bennett Cohen, Fred Coleman, Bertha Pasternak Feldman, Nancy Moss Fine, Aileen Fish, Kathleen Fisher, Robert H. Fleischer, Ruth Leipziger Frankel, Eva Friedman, Natalie S. Friedman, Abe Frumpkin, Sandra Gersten Blinn, Jacob W.H. Glass, Ada Halpert Goldman, Janet Gordon, Michael Greenwald, Morris W. Hahn Sr., Harry L. Hart, Carrie S. Heller, Leon Heller, Eva Herman, Milton J. Heinlein, Ezra Katz, Miriam Clothen, Philip Kolb, Irene Leitzel, Arthur Bernard Levinson, Alfred M. Levy, Dora Wasserman Levenstein, Annie Marcus, Emmanuel Marks, Margaret Meyer, Abraham Joseph Michelson, Benjamin Miller, Susie Kohlberg Nussbaum, Leonard Michael Proper, Manly Prussell, Suzanne Cotterer Raidman, John Rappaport, Ruth Rosenau, Adela Rosenberg, Neil E. Rosenberg, Harold S. Rosenbluth, Masha Rudman, Bernard L. Selesky, Hyman Saul, Lee J. Salzman, Herman N. Schwartz, David Scott, Dorothy Seldis, Sarah Selig, Valerie Seligson, Dora Shapiro, Frida Sinsheimer, Barbara Gorman Siskin, Muriel Kirshner Skolnick, Carrie Stern Smuckler, Jeanette Spector, Solomon Steigman, Paul M. Stern, Edward Waxman, Carrie Stern Weiss, Hilda Weiss, Marvin Welsh, Barney Welsh, Abraham S. Waxelblatt, Helen Hirsch Weil, Florence W. Woolsey, Jonathan L. Woolsey, Ellie Zilka, Alan Zuckerman. We add the names of those who've been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts, in these most recent days for whom we observe Shloshim. David Dickstein, Bonnie Blumenthal Finkelstein, Gloria Robinson, Henrietta Slapp, Joel Tabnick, Doris R. Winney. And if you are observing Yartzeit or Shloshim for a loved one whose name I did not call, please feel free to add that name to the comments or call it aloud now. Together, we honor their memories as, turning to page 294, we rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba, be'alma devarach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'alam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudashah b'reichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring comfort to the bereaved and peace to each of you. And together we say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Once again, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And I see Stephen Scher, our membership manager, waving in the back of the sanctuary. If you are new to Rosh Shalom, please be sure to introduce yourself to him, or just if you haven't met him yet, you should say hello and wish him a Shabbat Shalom. Yes. These words from Rabbi Karen Kedar. The people in your life mirror your world. If they are hollow, dull, or cruel, so will you see your life. if they are loving, inspirational, and supportive, you will reflect their beauty. It is most important that the company you keep reflect the life you wish to live. Choose your companions wisely. Seek your teachers well. Consider carefully the ones you engage in serious conversation. Look into the eyes of those who surround you, and you will see a reflection of yourself.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav eilecha v'chuneka
May the light of God's Spirit shine upon us and be good to us.
Yisa Adonai panav eilecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence be with us and bring us peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.